gummy bear.
It's the internet, you're busy, let's do this. For the next hour or so, let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game Mess Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, Sonic's true enemy is sadness, and hyenas are the dolphins of the land. But first, join me in welcoming today's co-host to Game Mess Mornings. It's Jan Ochoa from Giant Bomb, everybody.
I really love that rooster cawing in the intro there.
Me too.
It gets me going.
And all the standby music just has the yummy yummy and all that stuff just kind of is stringed in there. It's really good stuff. I'm very into it. But then the caw, it's morning. It's time to talk about video games. I'm really into it as well. So Jan, you've been getting back onto your running schedule, is what you were telling me. How's that going for you? Because I just moved, and I was right before we moved. I was on a great schedule of getting on the treadmill, setting it to that really high angle, and setting it to like 3.5 miles per hour and just going for like 20, 30 minutes. I was doing that every day. And it's like, okay, this is like really good for me. It's the right amount of time I can like commit to this. And it's and it's like hard enough that I feel like it's a really good workout. But I brought the treadmill and everything. So it's here, it's set up in the basement, and I have not gotten back on that yet. So like, what got you back on?
I think having a little bit more time now, with more folks on staff, don't have to worry about all the plates spinning or the house being on fire. So I was like, you know what? Everyone got it today. I'm just going to take a quick half hour, go for a run. And then I got 10 minutes into it and I felt like I was going to die.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's what I'm so afraid. Like, it's also, we've gone from Colorado dry heat to living 10 feet from Lake Erie. And I might as well live inside of Lake Erie with how humid it is here. And so my wife, who works out every day, is like talking about like, it's much harder here. I'm like, okay, well, I got to brace myself and get back into it. But I don't know. I'll find some time for that after we talk about video games. So before we get into the game mess, let's explain ourselves and what we do here. Each weekday, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes bringing you breaking news, the catch up, where we discuss the biggest topics of the day, and maybe even bring some of our original reporting from GameSpot, myself, elsewhere. We'll see. For all these topics, I will get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. That's Jan Ochoa. And
I'm just pretending.
And of course, if you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. We appreciate that. But you can also listen to the show on audio feeds. You can find the podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings, or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. And if you're watching there, hit that like button. It helps people find the show. All right, let's get into this mess of news. I feel like there's only one place to start here, and it is with my apology to hyenas everywhere for not immediately recognizing that that's what that sound was. Jan, do you know what I'm talking about here? Were you paying attention to that? Okay, all right. So
yes. I tuned into the Game Mess Morning yesterday and hearing you and Lucy argue about a sound, and then her low-key dissing you.
Yes.
About Echo the Dolphin.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Warmed my heart. Yeah.
It seemed about right. And you know what? In the end, she was proven once again to be correct about that. I'll read this headline here. This is: Hyenas is a new multiplayer sci-fi heist shooter from the team behind Alien Isolation. This is by Gray Spinfell at GameSpot. Creative Assembly, the strategy game giant and creator of Total War, and publisher Sega have announced a new game, Hyenas. Hyenas is a team-based shooter tasking players with robbing high-tech vaults on massive space freighters and then escaping the scene of the crime. In concept, Hyenas is a battle royale adjacent, drawing from Apex Legends and Hunt Showdown. Each match has 15 players, split into 3 teams of 5, and players also have to contend with NPC enemies and security systems. Since the game takes place in space, some areas are in zero gravity. Others have a zero gravity switch, allowing players to get the upper hand on enemies or get themselves into a whole lot of trouble. The goal is to pick up as much loot as possible, but rather than money or precious metals, the loot is made up of pop culture artifacts, a Sonic figurine, a Rubik's Cube, and various New York City related memorabilia, all make an appearance in Hyena's debut trailer. So it just sounds like you are going to collect a bunch of junk, and apparently it's worth something in this magical future. To me, this actually sounds like that Viking game that came out and no one cared about a little bit ago, where like there was like two groups of Vikings and they were all player characters, and then there was a treasure inside the building, and the two groups had to like get inside the building and get the same treasure, and then the treasure was guarded by AI NPCs. And then occasionally, if the two teams ran into each other, they would fight each other. But mostly it was about trying to like find ways to sneak into this building. It sounds pretty similar to that. So I'm like, okay, I guess I like some of this concept, but also a team-based shooter in space. I mean, especially after that Jeff Keighley show, a lot of these things are feeling very, very familiar and well-run territory at this point. Jan, what do you think?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just scanned through the trailer now, and it I don't know what to make of it, because I believe you had said that IGN had said that this was supposed to be framed as like a show stealer type of game.
That's right. That's correct.
And I don't know if it's quite stolen the show, because
Sure.
A, it's kind of late to the show, and B, if you showed me this, if I rewatch this trailer maybe a week, 2 weeks down the line, I don't think I'd remember it.
Right.
Because of how stylistic it is, but not in a standout way, you know?
Yeah, I think it is. I don't know. A lot of it feels very rote to me. Like you're doing things that are familiar. It looks familiar. It and in the ways that it doesn't, it kind of just is generic, and that's why it still is very familiar, because it's like, this just looks like, a stand-in video game that we could get from anybody. They've been working on this game, I think they said, for 4 years. And I imagine, at that time in the past, like that, that this idea probably felt a little bit different that long ago, where it's like, okay, there isn't a lot of these games, and now there's a lot of ways to go online with your friends and cause mayhem and interact. I mean, we Grace here just listed 2 games. There's that Viking game, but there's a million different like battle royale adjacent games. And I get the urge to be like, okay, there is definitely something more we could do with this concept if we just put our own spin on it. And maybe they're right. Maybe once we play this, we will be convinced, and that's the case for any game. But looking at the trailer, looking at what they're promising here, and it doesn't help that they did make those big lofty set those lofty expectations, saying this was going to be the show stealing thing. But coming out of it, seeing the trailer, I'm just like, I'm not feeling the urge to like, oh, I have to play this now. This is the kind of thing where I'm going to have to wait and see what other people say. I'll let other people try it. And if a big swelling momentum happens where everyone's like, oh yeah, everyone's playing this and it's the greatest, it's the top thing on Steam right now, yeah, I'll check in on it. But right now, I'm already ready to forget it.
Yeah, I'd be happy to be wrong by all means, because I'd want all games to be successful in an ideal world, right? I lost my train of thought. Oh, okay. I don't mean to disparage the developers, because 4 years is a very long time of working and plugging time into a game. But I say this, I don't mean to be mean, but
I understand.
This reminds me of this looks like it would be a random Ubisoft game that dies like 6 to 8 months after launch.
Right. One of those ones that just feels like, they announced it, like, we're trying this thing because it's a trend, and we put it out and we're not exactly sure where it's going to go. And if it doesn't go anywhere, it'll just get shuffled to the side. Now, still, I think I'm glad that Sega's like letting Creative Assembly do something like this. Creative Assembly's been a team that has done a lot of strategy stuff, and that's where they focus all their energies for the most part. And it seems like, okay, now they are letting them stretch their legs and try something new. And from that perspective, I really hope it is a success for them. And I think this concept, 15 players split into 3 teams, robbing spaceships, should be like something that I'm totally into. That is like, okay, just there's not like, I'm not worried about 100 people, but like there's going to be a lot of tension there where you're like, okay, where is the other team? Like we could take out these NPCs, or should we set up and let the other team take out these NPCs and then we ambush them? Like there's just so much cool potential there for gameplay interactions and interactions between the computer opponents and the human opponents. And then, you are getting Sonic dolls, and that's the reward there. And that's like a cool concept as well. There's a lot of things that should be working for me, but it's I don't know. Looking at the trailer, it was not clicking. So it's like that. There's a disconnect here somewhere. And usually, my stance on these things is that that's okay in early trailers. If once I like, because I'm still always reserving judgment until I get my hands on it, even for trailers that wow me. It's like, hey, yeah, I'm wowed by the trailer. That's a different thing than the video game I'm going to be playing later. Those feelings I have now have little to do with what I'll feel later. So I'm going to wait around to see what people say. If it gets any buzz, I'll check it out myself, and who knows, maybe I'll fall in love with it. All right. Next up, this is from Ian Flynn, who's one of the writers on the Sonic series. Sonic Frontiers is themed around melancholy, with Sonic's never to say die attitude put to the test. This is by Sicker at My Nintendo News. Sonic the Hedgehog writer Ian Flynn has talked to IGN about the upcoming Sonic Frontiers game, which is scheduled to be released on current platforms, including the Nintendo Switch later this year. He said that the mysterious Sonic Frontiers has provided him with a very different approach to what he has been used to writing in the past, and that it is centered around the feeling of melancholy and getting through that positively. He went on to say that it is about how the tragedies of the past have caught up with Sonic, which has led him to his new adventure in Frontiers. Sonic must remain strong in order to rescue his friends and collect stolen Chaos Emeralds. And here's what Mr. Flynn had to say specifically. Sonic, Tails, and Amy embark for the Starfall Islands to investigate the disappearance of the Chaos Emeralds. Things take a turn for the dramatic immediately, and Sonic is left alone with a lot of questions. So this is the plot of This is the plot of Super Mario Sunshine. I'll finish what he said. The story is his journey to uncover all the mysteries of the islands, rescue his friends, and discover how everything ties together. Should Sonic be allowed to be sad? Jan Ochoa, answer the question.
He's what, in his 30s now?
Yeah.
Everyone, like, we're all sad.
That's true.
But maybe Sonic shouldn't be sad.
Yeah. I don't know. It's weird. Like, okay, maybe it's trying to make it more relatable, I guess, but it also just feels like Sonic doesn't feel equipped to, like, okay, he's just gonna be positive through all this sadness, and the world is destroyed around him, but he's got the positive attitude, and that's what the themes of this game. And I'm like, okay. Well, I want to see fun zones. That's what I come to Sonic for.
Yeah, I feel bad that I feel that Sonic can't convey proper emotion and convey, like, loss and empathy, because he just goes fast, that he doesn't experience all these emotions.
Right. It's like if your house was on fire and a clown showed up. That's what it's like. That's what it feels like. There was just, like, for no other reason than the clown is just like, I need to find out if I can still be happy while your house is on fire. I'm like, oh, okay, all right, clown.
Right.
That's what it feels like to me.
I mean, because, like, there have been other anthropomorphic animal-like protagonists that can make you feel things. Like, the Ratchet and Clank games are very successful in that, of like, oh, I feel for you, or like little robot adjacent things. But Sonic, I just don't. I don't. No. And I think that ties in with, like, how much more bummed out I am with the overall look of the game,
right,
that from what we've seen so far and what I've seen over people's shoulders at Summer Game Fest, where now hearing that this is the tone they're going for, they're definitely nailing it, but I don't think that tone is for me. Also, they have a sad hedgehog. Just give it to Shadow.
Yeah, let Shadow deal with it. Yeah, exactly. To me, this feels like we built this game, and this is what the world looks like, and now we're going to put Sonic into it. Now, hey, writer, come up with a solution for why stuff is like this, is this way. And it's like, wow, that looks really drab and sad. So I guess we're going to have it be a sad, drab world, and Sonic is going to be the light that stands against the shadow. And maybe he'll stand against Shadow the Hedgehog. Maybe he will show up. But it just feels slapped onto the back end and not sort of the vision. Like yesterday, we were talking about Final Fantasy 16 having, like, this real clear vision of what it wants to be. And you could tell that just by looking at the trailers and the way the developers talk about the game. I do not get that sense from Sonic Frontiers.
No, not at all. My interest may be turned around and put back on the game if perhaps they release, like, a trailer with, like, a sad bastard cover of something, and then it ends with, like, a Robotnik or whoever just going, like, "You can't run for your problems, Sonic." Something
somehow
like that.
Eggman has returned. Well, I mean, what sad bastard version of a Michael Jackson song could they use for this game?
Let's just use PYT because he's gonna kiss a lady again.
There we go. Speaking of Michael Jackson kissing ladies in Sonic the Hedgehog, Yuji Naka confirms that Michael Jackson wrote music for Sonic the Hedgehog 3. This is by Darren Bonthus. I think this is from GameSpot as well. The late Michael Jackson's involvement in the creation of Sonic the Hedgehog 3's soundtrack has been a long-running rumor in gaming circles, and one that co-creator of Sonic's Blue Blur has confirmed with the release of Sonic Origins, a compilation of classic Sonic games from modern platforms. Veteran game developer Yuji Naka commented on how Sonic the Hedgehog 3's original soundtrack was missing from the game. He tweeted, "Oh my god, the music for Sonic 3 has changed, even though Sega Official uses Michael Jackson's music." People are upset about this. Yuji Naka is clearly kind of a little bit upset about this. I just want to play a little clip here for everybody of
Let's do it.
Of like what this sounds like. Is this really what we all are dying on a hill for? Okay, come on, everybody. What are we talking about here? This is the thing you're missing.
Different.
All right. Okay, that part right there actually is kind of nice. But
I don't think they can hear it.
oh, okay. Oh, hang on. Let me get it. I'll fix it. Hang on. Let's see. Here it comes, everybody. There you go. So this is it. This is the thing, right? This is what you like?
Yeah, I love this.
All right. Let me wrap this one back up. That's one of the songs that's missing. There's a handful of others, but it's not. I don't know. To me, this is not a great loss for a Sonic 3. But I don't know how. Jan, you loving that? Were you feeling that?
I was feeling that, but I don't necessarily need to feel that anymore after hearing that again.
Let's see. He, according to creative officer Takahashi Iizuka, new tracks arranged by composer Jun Senyo have replaced Sonic 3 soundtrack, as much of your game's original score has been left in an unusable state. When we're going back and trying to recreate all these games from 30 plus years ago, you get a lot of old data that's not really usable. Iizuka told Eurogamer, and music was one of those things. We had to dig up that old DAT tapes in order to get the music. DAT tapes?
Sorry.
No, I understand. To get that music that was on all these games, and Jun Senyo went in and had to recreate in a modern format the music that they could put on Sonic 3 and Knuckles as a final product. Now, that's probably only maybe half true, where it's like, it's difficult to get some of these things, but you could always just rip it off the ROM. There's ways to do that. This is, for the most part, this is probably just having to do with Michael Jackson and not wanting to have the Michael Jackson music in there anymore.
Right. On top of that, maybe having to pay whatever fees they have to pay to the Michael Jackson estate, I'd assume.
And Chad is helping. Tokimeki points out that when Yuji Naka says that Sega Sonic Official was using the music, it was the TikTok account for Sonic Official using Michael Jackson music. So it's like they're okay with using Michael Jackson music over there, but they don't want to keep it in Sonic 3. But yeah, this has been a long rumored thing, like where it was never confirmed, at least not officially. I think it was always kind of like a soft confirmed. People knew like for sure that Michael Jackson had worked on it, but Sega had never confirmed it themselves. Well, yeah, that seems to be the case, and that seems to be the reason they are taking it out of the game. Xbox Cloud Gaming will receive keyboard and mouse support. This is by Grace Benfeld, GameSpot. Grace showing up a lot today. As has been hinted before, Xbox Cloud Streaming will add mouse and keyboard support to its streaming service. This comes several years after the addition of mouse and keyboard support to Xbox consoles. The long-anticipated feature was revealed during a developer-focused talk delivered by Morgan Brown, a software engineer at Xbox. During the presentation, Brown outlined how the Xbox Cloud Gaming team plans to reduce latency and assist developers in optimizing their game's resolution and graphics for streaming. He clarified that mouse and keyboard support for Xbox Cloud Gaming is coming, and that developers should work on adding it to their games. It will light up in streaming once we finished adding it, he stated. Xbox Cloud Gaming supports Xbox games specifically, so you won't be able to use the mouse and keyboard for PC games. It's just going to be the Xbox versions that now work with mouse and keyboard games. So if you're like playing on your phone, like it's still going to be the Xbox versions. However, this feature does eliminate the need to have a compatible controller in addition to a compatible device. So if you have keyboard and mouse on your laptop or whatever, you could at least begin playing many of these games, even if you don't have a touchscreen, for example. So this is not for me, but I can imagine there are like Xbox Cloud Streaming is coming online around the world and in territories that have traditionally have had a hard time getting consoles. Like there's territories throughout South America with huge tariffs that make these new systems cost thousands of dollars relatively, and it's the kind of thing where it's like, oh, well, if they could just get online with a computer they already have, well, it's like now they need a controller, and they're going to have a hard time even tracking that down in many cases. So if they already have a keyboard and mouse, they're ready to go. So this is a pretty cool addition.
Yeah. The idea of adding more different inputs to cloud gaming kind of sounds terrifying.
Sure.
But I'm glad when they do add support for stuff, because I know there's a good chunk of people that are very jazzed and they're like ringing their bells, like it's finally here.
Yeah. And it's the kind of thing where it's like anytime like the problem with cloud streaming is that last mile problem inside people's homes. They can set up the infrastructure, the backbone of the internet, improve all that stuff. They can put a data center down the street from your house. But once it gets to your house, what happens then? Do you have the device that can put it on your TV or TV that can display it? And even if you do, are you comfortable like picking up the controller and attaching it with Bluetooth to your TV? In many cases, I think for a lot of people, it's like, it's too much work. I'm just going to watch Netflix. That last mile problem just has just enough friction that I think it's going to prevent a lot of people from getting into cloud gaming until it just becomes second nature. And anytime they can reduce that friction by just saying, well, that works, and this works, and now mouse and keyboard works on top of that, it should improve it. But it's going to be gains of inches here and there over time. And Microsoft seems to understand that. They're like in this for the long haul. So it's like they don't expect any one of these things to be like, well, and now cloud gaming is the thing for everybody. So it's cool that they're doing this.
Yeah, 100%.
Speaking of Xbox, the Xbox documentary just won an Emmy. You can watch this for free. It's up on YouTube, but this is by Chris Carter at Destructoid. In case you missed it, there's a 6-episode Xbox documentary out now that deals with the history of the console line from the germination of the idea as a brand through the success of Halo into the Red Ring of Death up until now. It's called Power On: The Story of Xbox, and it's interesting in the sense that it's officially sanctioned, so it has all this like inside information, but also doesn't hold back. For all its efforts, it actually just won a Daytime Emmy for Outstanding Single Camera Editing, adding another award to the production team's repertoire. Now, Jan, you've had some run-ins with TV production. Is a Daytime Emmy real?
Yes.
Okay.
There have been multiple podcasts that are on YouTube and stuff that have won Daytime Emmys. I think I think it's only a matter of time till Game S Mornings brings one home to Giant Bomb.
Yes,
it's only a matter of time.
Just any day now. If I want a Daytime Emmy, then it's definitely real. Like at that point we know for sure it's real. And I would never be skeptical of the concept ever again. Let's see. This is the last news story we have here. This one, thanks for the person who sent this to me. I didn't put your name down here, but thank you. I appreciate it. It was a good one to point out. A Destiny YouTuber who allegedly impersonated Bungie is being sued by the studio for $7.7 million by Tom Ivan at VGC. Bungie is seeking over $7.65 million in damages from a Destiny YouTuber who allegedly impersonated the company in order to issue a series of bogus DMCA strikes against fellow content creators. This is a wild one, everybody. So I got some tweets here from someone who was the victim of this person, and you just got to see him to believe him. In a revision of its original complaint, which was spotted by the Gamer Post, the defendant has been named as Nick Miner, aka YouTube Lord Nazo. This is now the original complaint was Bungie also suing YouTube and saying, YouTube, your system is way too easy to exploit, and you need to take responsibility for this. So then everyone's like, yes, please, thank you for doing this, Bungie. But now they're also naming the person who took advantage of the system. Last December, the YouTube channel of Lord Nazo was issued a takedown notice after publishing music from the original soundtrack for the Destiny expansion, The Taken King, which Bungie said infringed copyrights and violated its policy on fan use of intellectual property. Rather than remove the video, Miner is alleged to have left it online until YouTube deleted it in January. Bungie claims that, seemingly in retaliation for all of that, Miner created fake Gmail accounts in order to pose as the studio's brand protection vendor, CSC, and send out a wave of fraudulent takedown notices targeting videos posted by members of the Destiny community, including My Name is Bife, Aztec Cross, The Phoenix, and Promethean. And then he also basically went in and gaslit everyone in this community. So let me get these tweets here. This is wild. So this is from one of the people who was targeted by him, Owen Spence. He said he invited us to a Discord to talk about this, and he said stuff like, and I'll read this for people listening to the audio version. This is from Lord Nazo in this Discord. The fact that it's that easy makes it very likely for someone to just abuse the system. Hell, you could make a Google account right now, go to YouTube Studio, and submit a takedown request on any video you want. Yep, YouTube has the most bullshit copyright takedown system ever. It's so brain dead simple that even a child could submit a takedown request without needing any proof of authorization. I believe someone is impersonating him. I still don't think it's CSC. And it's like, again, this is the person who is doing all of this, basically just telling on themselves. This is. I mean, I get that, like serial killers always want to be caught is like this thing that happens in movies, but this feels like, please catch me. I'm doing this exact thing.
Right, like it's 100% that, right? Like I'm getting away with it. I'm gonna leave some breadcrumb trails here.
And God, I get that.
What an idiot.
And I get that he's like mad at Bungie for targeting him and then not targeting some of these other creators. Like that's what it seems like this was happening here. He's like, I'm gonna go claim these other things that are doing the same thing I was doing, and they're not getting in trouble. But then like he's like, oh well, YouTube's system is so broad. Like the YouTube system being easy to exploit was never a problem for him. It only became a problem when he, at least in this group of people, when he started doing it to other people. His beef was always with Bungie, like singling him out or whatever.
Right.
He like also in this Discord. I mean, anyone can make an email like first name last name at gmail.com. It's definitely a fraud. It's the people like, and then he said to everyone else, it's the people like us who suffered, the little guys, or just anyone with fewer than 250,000 YouTube subscribers and 100,000 Twitter followers. Excuse me. The person that Owen Spence, who was targeted here, says that they feel betrayed and unbelievably upset that someone we knew and trusted would do this. Literally, almost all Destiny music on YouTube is gone because of this.
Jesus.
That's a wild thing.
That's the epitome of like one bad apple ruining the bunch, but like in this case, like, nah, we're gonna uproot the whole tree and destroy this whole orchard.
Yep.
What a ass. I'm sorry for cussing, but what an
I understand
ass.
When you have to. It's the kind of thing like people to do retaliation. Human beings have this sense of like, it's worth it at all costs. Like I'll hurt myself and others if I could just get that sweet taste of revenge. And it's but it's the kind of thing where like once people have a chance to step outside themselves and see how they're behaving, they're like, okay, no, we have to stop this. This is of course not acceptable, and really it's not worth what it's doing to me. It just seems like nowhere along the line did this person have that internal like reflection on their behavior. I mean, I hope that Bungie's able to get some punishment for this person. Really though, the main issue here continues to be that YouTube system is so easy to exploit, and YouTube does not seem interested in fixing that at all, because who are they at risk of being sued by more? It is by the copyright holders, not by someone who gets struck by a fraudulent copyright claim. Bungie is trying to reverse that and put the pressure in a different direction so that YouTube's like, oh, well, now we are getting sued for this flaw in our system, so now we do have motivation to fix it. Who knows if that actually ends up happening, but that should be the case, right?
Yeah, 100%. It's we live on YouTube, and thankfully we don't live and die based on YouTube numbers and performance there. Right. But like, there have been multiple times where even just posting a video, we'll get like a copyright claim, and it will have, as far as I can tell, nothing that could be considered a copyright infringement. But somehow even trying to bring it back to YouTube and say like, yo, we need you to remove this from this video, only to reach like a blank wall or just like a bot, and you just run in a circle of like the bot misunderstanding you, and never getting redirected to an actual person. It's incredibly frustrating. So and for folks that made their living on being like a Destiny YouTuber or content creator, this must be like a absolute nightmare and just incredibly disheartening. What an ass.
Yes, a complete ass. In my experience with YouTube, I've had issues where I would make a video, and then someone else would use clips of that video, and then they would turn on the bot to like, content ID, and then my video would get flagged. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like like it just should never work that way. That's incredibly inconvenient at the minimum, and sort of like aggressive and unnecessarily like pushing people off your platform like at the maximum. And it's like, but YouTube has so many content creators that just sort of continue to push through, that they're like, hey, if we, frustrate one or two and they get burnt out because they're dealing with these awful systems, well, there's always another one to fill their spot. It's kind of how it feels. So, and it's like, really, there's not a lot of other options out there for, if you want to create video content on the web and get decently paid, there is one basic option, and it is YouTube.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Jan, it's time for the catch up. It's time to talk about what everyone is talking about in video games. And the first thing I wanted to talk about with you here is GPU prices seem to be normal. Like, it almost feels like we might get to a point where GPU prices begin going on sale again. I wanted to add, like, obviously this is about like the crypto crash and the economy crashing in some ways, but mostly about the crypto crash and people who were mining realizing, well, it's no longer worth it to buy new ones. And really, it might be the right time to sell the old ones and try to maximize the return on that investment, because the coins we're getting from mining aren't worth much anymore. So there's a lot of secondhand ones on the market, but also if you go into a store, there's a good chance you're going to see a lot of NVIDIA cards at the very least, and often AMD cards as well. Are you in the market to like buy something now because it's easier?
I am intrigued now, because I feel like I hate feeling that this is a bubble that is going to burst, but I definitely feel like this grace period of like, oh, these are actually available and some of them are going on sale I hope it doesn't quickly disappear, but I feel like it will. So it's kind of forcing me to think of like, well, gosh, now like this may actually be the time to upgrade. And I've seen like a bunch of photos floating around of people posting, like, I don't think it's a Fry's, but like an electronics store where the case is just full of GPUs and everything. And I was like, oh man, that looks great. I could think about all the things I can encode. I could force everyone to start recording in 4K and it'd be the worst. But I could do it.
You could. Now's the time. And the suggestion you made there that this is temporary, I think is probably accurate, because I remember the last time we got to this point with video cards where like this is not the first wave of crypto absorbing all the cards and making them really hard to come by. Like that happened like several years ago, and then there was this reprieve where there was like the price dipped, and then we all thought, oh well, that's it, everything's back to normal, and then it got even worse the next time. To me, I think there's no reason to assume that won't happen again. And so if you are in the market for a card, I would just pull the trigger right now. I know the RTX 4000 series is coming out soon, and we can hope and pray that launch will be like, we'll be in this part of this reprieve where it'll be a launch where you can actually go into a store and buy one of those. I just would not expect that. At any moment, this stuff could change. And if you need a card now, buy a card now is what I would say for sure.
Yeah. The implication of this that I'm incredibly happy about is not just the crypto bros being sad that this market is drying up, but also for the environment, because gosh, I'm sure we've all seen our fair share of like photos of crypto farms where it is just wall to wall shelves of computers just running fans 24 hours a day. So I'm glad that that these GPUs are not are going into the right hands.
Yes, absolutely. These things were made for people to play games. People found another use for it, and the companies, obviously were taking advantage of it to a certain extent, and the market was never prepared for this, and it was never really going to be able to handle it, and it just left the people in a situation where it's like, hey, I really want to use these cards, and I'm going to play games on it, and then when I'm done with it, I'm going to like hand it off to like a cousin, and then I'll buy a new one. And what happens here instead is someone's going to just run it 24/7, pump those carbon emissions in the atmosphere for no reason other than create imaginary currency, and then they are going to sell this decrepit card that is completely been just run through the mill, and they're going to sell it to someone as like, hey, it's basically new, and they're going to take advantage of someone else on the market. And yeah, it's a shame. And I'm glad that it's seeming like, at least for now, it's coming to somewhat of an end. And again, I'm not going to believe that it's going to last forever. Something that also doesn't last forever. The summer sales are either they've already begun or they're about to begin, whether that's on Steam, PlayStation, and Xbox as well, I believe. The PlayStation sale just began, and the Steam sale is supposed to begin today. I've seen a lot of good deals on these. Do you, when these things happen, do you run to the stores and like, okay, what can I get? Or do you kind of just like have one or two games in mind? Like, once that's on sale, I'll buy that, and then I'll just dip out.
I've taken something I've started doing a lot of is just like wish listing a poop ton of stuff, whether or not I like really, really want it, or it's something that I've had my eye on in the past, or I just need to circle back to it. So whenever the Steam sales pop off, and especially with Q3 right around the corner, Jeff Grubb, and that sweet Steam Deck maybe coming home to me soon.
Yep.
I'm getting ready and I'm gearing up. You know, I remember all these talks of people with their Steam libraries and their backlog just being up out the wazoo, and I kind of want that. Like, I don't need to play Metal Gear Solid 5 again, but it was like $5 the other day. I'm like, let's get it. Maybe we'll play through it when the Steam Deck comes. Maybe we won't.
It runs really well on the Steam Deck. I'll say that much. It's
son of a gun.
It's real good. I mean, yeah, I think honestly this might be the first Steam sale to even get that Steam Deck bump, where people are thinking along the same lines of you as you. It's like, either I have it or I'm about to get it, and I want to make sure that my Steam library is ready to go. I mean, this is clearly what Valve's strategy with the Steam Deck has been, where they're like, hey, we have, like, the tech is in the right spot. These chips can run cool and efficient and powerful all at the same time, and we can put it into a form factor where it's easy to make it into a handheld. Whatever, that's there. The problem was always the pricing, and that's why other companies were like, we're going to kind of sell the somewhat less powerful version of these chips, and this handheld gaming PC is still going to be more than $1,000. Valve's incentives are completely different. They just want to sell a lot of video games, and they don't, and for video games from anybody, not just Valve games. So if it's on Steam, they're going to get their money for it. So they're like, let's get a system out there that can appeal to a different audience and maybe make a different audience spend even more on PC games. I mean, I think it's really, really going to work, and it might be a boost to this Steam summer sale, I think. So,
yeah, definitely.
I think that for me, I've gotten to a point in my gaming career where these summer sales usually come by, and I'm like, I have most of these games now. If I haven't bought them in previous sales, I'm either getting them for work or whatever, or at this point, I've learned my lesson of like, I often don't even play them. Now, if it's such a good price, like if it's anything with a single digit price, right? Like just that integer is very appealing. Like $5 for a game that used to be $60. It's hard at that point to say no. And that's where I usually fall into it. But that's like games that are 6-7 years old. I'm like, if I really wanted to play them, why haven't I played them yet? And yet, but still, once the deal gets into I turn into Paul Reichert. And I'm like, well, it's a deal, so I got to buy it. So yeah,
it's a Poggers deal. You got to do it.
Deal, yes. Yeah. What's your greatest Poggers video game deal you ever got?
Oh gosh, I think it was probably Jade Empire for 99 cents, which I felt like a criminal getting.
Yes,
because it was the Steam version. I believe it was the Steam version, or it might have been on GOG. And just because in my head, I'm thinking, I'm doing the mental math of like 99 cents. Like, how can I not get that?
Right.
I bought like a iPhone app for 99 cents once, and I got maybe 10 minutes of enjoyment out of that. I could probably get 10 hours of enjoyment out of Jade Empire with 99 cents. And I'll tell you, Grubb, I did not play it yet. Never fired it up. I had all the intent to.
Yep, exactly. I mean, and these days, like, it's very easy to like be even like 99 cents, like, because you can get so many games for free, like on Twitch and on Amazon, and then as part of like subscriptions. It's like even like a good deal isn't quite as spicy as it once was. My most Poggers gaming deal though was I was at, I think it was Sam's Club or Costco, one of those, and I was going through like the book section, and somehow there was just this random 3DS game, Tom Clancy's Shadow Wars for the 3DS. And I'm like, oh, this looks like one of those turn-based strategy games that I like. I'm into that. And then I look at the price, and it was like $7. And this is at a point where no 3DS game that was new at a store should be at that price. Like, that was like way less than you would even pay for like secondhand games at GameStop. So I'm like, oh, well, I'm definitely gonna get this. It's probably not gonna work, but I took it to the register and they just didn't say anything, and it was $7. I'm like, all right. And then that was the game that lived in my 3DS for the rest of its life, because then I got all the rest of my games digitally. So I just had Tom Clancy's Shadow Wars, and I just saw it in the drawer back over there. It's in the drawer now. So I actually did take out of my 3DS recently because my kids wanted to play Mario Kart together. So I have the two 3DSs, and I have the one that has the digital copy. And then I bought another version so they could play together, and that worked out well. But yeah, that was my most poggers deal. Incredible. Okay. Here's a heads up. Some players are having trouble beating KOTOR 2, not because of its difficulty on Switch, but because of a bug that is causing all progress to stop. Aspire, the team that is responsible for the port, is they're working on a fix, but they also provided a workaround, and it's pretty a wild thing, but apparently this works. So before the cutscene that is causing the problem, you need to navigate to the party selection screen. There, you can triple click the left thumbstick, which brings up a cheat menu for the game, built into the game. Select warp and travel to OND 504 and warp to a random location, and do not head to the merchant corridor because another crash occurs there.
Okay.
Yeah, so this I mean, listen, KOTOR 2 always had a lot of issues. Next to the Old Republic 2 always had a lot of problems. This sounds especially buggy, though. So the good news here is that the crash was previously thought to have affected all players of the Switch version, but Aspire has clarified to Axios that only a small number of players were encountering the crash. So if you want to roll the dice there, you're probably still going to be fine. But you can also just wait for them to fix it. And they've been doing a good job of fixing the games they've been putting out on Switch, so I'm hopeful for that. All right. How are you feeling about playing like old games that get ported to the Switch now, especially with the Steam Deck imminent for you?
I think I care less now about them coming onto the Switch, especially knowing that I'll eventually get my hands on a Steam Deck. Like, I've thought multiple times about, like, oh, maybe unless it's like a first party joint, right? Because I have probably bought all of the Trails in the Sky,
Sure,
and the Trails of Steel,
Trails of Cold Steel.
Yes, Cold Steel. Because I'm like, I hear Michael Heim talking big game about it.
Of course you do. Yeah.
And I'm like, I should probably get into this. That I don't care so much about them coming on the Switch, because I feel like the Steam Deck will just enable me to play all these old JRPGs that I don't need to play.
Yeah, it's I still think I like the way they're often packaged on the Switch. Like Star Wars Racer, I tried to get that on Steam. And it's like, oh, okay, this is like an older version of this game, and it's not working quite right. So it's like they basically made it all, they spruced it up and made sure it's just going to run on the Switch. So I just got it there, I paid for it there, and that was fine. But overall, Steam has so many more games and so many more options, and the Steam Deck is more powerful, and so they run right. And then if I really want to play a specific game, the emulation options are just so robust on the Steam Deck that, yeah. I mean, I could talk about how good the Steam Deck is I have talked about how good the Steam Deck is for forever, and I will continue to do so. When you get yours, Jam, we should definitely just do a stream where we just set it up. We'll do some crimes on it. It'll be really great. It'll be really fun.
Oh, lovely. And then we'll shoot some hoops after. Exactly.
Just you and me, so no one can to ball us. Just be like, yeah, two mediocre basketball players. Yeah. All right, let's get to the question of the day, everybody. Yesterday, I asked, does your interest in a game increase when it goes from paid to free to play? And only 32%, about 33% said yes. And 67% said no. So 2/3 no. I guess I'm not too surprised by this, especially because the audience that I'm probably speaking to is a lot of people who have not preconceived notions, but notions of what a free-to-play game is going to be. And it's going to be very different than the games that they grew up on. They have an idea of like what they want a game to be. And when you go to a free-to-play game, it's like, this is going to be a thing that's trying to manipulate me into spending money. And they're correct. There's just an audience of people who are like, well, that's better than paying for money up front. And I think it's a different audience than what I'm speaking to. But still, I think that there's a reason developers continue to go this path. Like, the reason I asked this question is Fall Guys. Fall Guys is
totally
a game that, it was premium priced, and it just it didn't seem like it was completely falling off a hill, but it also seemed like, okay, this is going to rejuvenate it. And the servers went down, more people were playing than ever. Of course, it was also ported to Xbox and Switch, and that was a huge part of it. But going free to play ensured that launch was really big for them. So Where are you at with this, Jan? When you first play a game and you get it for work or whatever, or you buy it and then it goes free to play, and now there's another chance to get in there and there's more people playing, does that make you want to check back in on it?
I think it will depend on a game by game basis, because Warframe has Warframe always been free to play?
Warframe has always been free to play, yes.
Right. Well, so like Warframe, like with that always being free to play, but being such a deep lore hole to dive into, has been intimidating. But for something like Knockout City, where I initially invested a lot of time with some friends, and then hearing that it went free to play, I'm like, oh, cool. I could ease myself back into it, because there's more people probably at similar levels to me. So it'll depend on the game, or sometimes when it's something like Final Fantasy 14, where it's like, oh, cool, I can really try out this game. And then if I really, really like it, I can dive in all the way that I want to. But for something like Fall Guys, if it wasn't for work purposes, I don't know if I would check it out again, because I feel like I had already gotten everything I needed to get out of Fall Guys. And you know, I haven't been paying too close attention to it, so they could have added a bunch of new stuff, like, I don't know, maybe the little jelly bean boys play basketball now.
That's what I need to get excited. That's what I need to get out of bed in the morning. Absolutely. It's for me, it's always about like the Discord and the people I play games with, and and trying to set up game nights, or friends and family, and being like, hey, this game is $20. Do you want to come play it with me? That's one thing that I'm like usually going to steer clear of. But when I get a chance where I'm like, okay, this game is free, all you have to do is hit this one button. And if you don't want to do that, that's fine. I get it. Like, you're busy. But if you do want to play with us, you don't have to spend any money. And that's much more, it's much easier for me to have that conversation with people. And I don't feel guilty being like, hey, because again, I get a lot of games for work. It's like so easy for me, like, come play with me, come spend your money to play a game with me and entertain me. I don't like saying that stuff. So it's like, instead I'm like, when it's free to play, it's like, okay, this is an opportunity to expand the group of people I'm playing with beyond the people I know bought the game. So I like that. And Fall Guys is a game I've enjoyed and have checked in on occasionally over the last year or whatever it's been out. But this is like a huge opportunity for me to be like, okay, here is a lightning rod where I know a bunch of people are going to be playing. I know a bunch of people are going to be interested in it for the first time because of the port and because it's free to play. And so I'm going to, go in there and check it out again. And that's my plan. Although we were going to stream the custom games on Friday. It sounds like they shut off custom games. I don't know if they turned them back on. So yeah, we're gonna have to look into that. So maybe we'll have to rework UPF. But if they turn it back on by Friday, yeah, we'll figure it out. Absolutely. But if they get it working, we will still do it. I would love to do that. It sounds like a good time.
Yeah. I feel like what has replaced free-to-play games within my friend circle specifically is just Game Pass.
Right.
Where,
that's huge.
Exactly, right? Like, I had a friend that was not necessarily into a Left 4 Dead Back 4 Blood style game, but because he already had Game Pass, he was like, all right, well, I'll try it out. I'll download it. And then, we wound up beating the whole thing together.
Right.
So I think you're right about free to play still having a weird connotation in people's heads where it's oh, well, I don't want to play that then because they're going to try and charge me a bunch of money down the line, versus, I guess, the weird upfront cost of Game Pass, and that being a easier pill to swallow. Because I mean, like, I've played hours of Genshin Impact, and I got lucky where I didn't actually drop any money in to get more rolls. I dropped money in because I wanted to support the developers and be like, hey, good job. Thank you for making this.
Yeah, and it's the kind of thing where I get why people have those connotations of free to play games, and they're hesitant and all that stuff. But when it's when it's these people that that are not subscribed to Game Pass, it's like this is one way to get them in. But Game Pass, you're right, has become this other thing of, okay, I know it is a cost each month, but we often play games together and have a good time. And if we just consider this the price of having fun, and we kind of built it into our expectations, I think it's easier to manage that. And then when a game comes along and you convince them to play it, it is at that point, they just spent their time and they just download it. And so if things aren't great and they don't have a good time and they don't enjoy the game, Well, the pain points are very small there. It is, okay, we'll just uninstall it. We just won't play it again. And we're not thinking about, oh, I just spent $60 on this, Jeff. The next time you ask me to play a game with you, I'm going to reconsider like whether or not I even want to do that. Even though we often do have fun, I still, that this just cost me money because you talked me into spending this money. And again, that's just my own guilt associated with it. But yeah, you're right. Game Pass has a very similar effect. And it's one of the things I think is really good about it. And now, I think the way PlayStation Plus works now, it's going to be very similar for a lot of people, even if it isn't a lot of day one Sony games. I think they're still going to keep up like day one smaller third-party games, and then a huge library of back catalog stuff that's going to be really good for a lot of people.
Like, I had a group of friends that gave me guff because I asked them to buy Uno, and it was like $1.99.
Exactly.
Just so we could play Uno together. And then I had to miss the game night because, life events and whatnot. And then they were very upset with me about making them spend $1.99.
Right.
And I realized, like, okay, all right, sure, $1.99 adds up down the line, but like, y'all pay for like so many different subscriptions.
Right. And
like
or
$1.99 is
like
a drop in the bucket here.
Or you get like really like $1.99 is so cheap, like compared to like going to get a drink from somewhere, and it's like that's there could be $3, $4, $5, $6, but we just for some reason I know games and entertainment stuff that we're not like associated with like sustenance, I suppose. We just think about it as like, okay, every dollar hurts that much more, and so $1 hurts, $2 really hurts, let alone $60.
Right. The chat brings up an excellent point. $1.99 is cheaper than actual Uno, like an actual deck of cards.
Deck of cards, absolutely. Yes, you can go to Target and find Uno for like what, like $10 or something like that. I don't know how much does Uno cost these days. Probably still make a lot of money off that. Yeah, look it up right now. While he's doing that, let's talk about our question for tomorrow. I will put this up on my Twitter feed. Should Sonic games be sad? I want you to tell me that. You tell me, should Sonic games be sad? Yes or no? I will put that on the Twitter feed at some point whenever I remember to do that today. All right, how much does it cost, Jan Ochoa?
Jeff Grubb, what did you say again?
I said $9.99.
Well, egg on both of our faces, because I thought it was going to be around same price, $5.69.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, printing costs. I bet it's gonna go up in price.
Ooh, the retro edition, $5.99.
Ooh, okay. That extra 30 cents to get out of those nostalgic vibes. Absolutely. It's I suppose printing stuff's not. It's one of those commodities at this point. Uno. Have you ever played Duo, the sequel to Uno?
No, I have not played Duo.
I've seen it at Target a couple times, and I'm like, that seems weird. I mean, they're trying to make it happen. Maybe I bet it has not happened. I bet it's not taken off. If anyone knows anyone who's ever played, it's not Dose. Maybe it is Dose. It could be Dose. That makes more sense. Yeah. So if you played Dose or Duo, whatever it's called, let me know. Let me know how much fun you had. Jen, we're going to wrap up the show, but I need to know what is happening on Giant Bomb later today and for the rest of the week.
Oh, boy. Well, yesterday there was an obscene amount of content popping off. You and 5 other members of the crew played through quite a big chunk of TMNT Shredder's Revenge. That quick look is now live on the site. An episode of Jeff's One Punch Jeff. I forget what the actual title of the show is. I apologize. Another album or another arcade pit. An episode of Game Mess Mornings from yesterday with Lucy James.
Yes, watch that one. It was a lot of fun.
Today we've got another episode of the Voicemail Dump Truck. Tomorrow, another episode of Game Mess Morning. The finale of Run to the Hills. And another episode of UPF to cap off the week. And there's a little note and a little thing
calendar
for the folks
today.
at home.
Yeah, the little note. What does this say?
It says I think that everyone is attractive.
Very attractive all day long. You're very attractive. Now all this is subject to change, except for that. You're going to be attractive all day. All right.
Yeah, card subject to change. You may, after 2 p.m., some people just go like, well, so.
All right. Jan, thank you so much for this today. I really appreciate that. You coming in here on Thursdays, helping me out, talk about the news. It's always a good time.
I love Thursdays.
Yeah, I love Thursdays too. With that, though, we are out. I want to thank everybody for listening. This show is only as good as the people watching, is what I always say. I've always said that, and I'm going to keep saying that. So until the next Morning Mess, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye.